Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Wanted to give you a quick tour of the office as requested by Max on one of our earlier videos. The issue with that being is we actually don't have an office. We have a garage that I've converted. Nicely carpeted, ply on the walls, and an absolute state of chaos on the left-hand side where all the family gear lives. But come on in and we'll show you around. So this is it. This is the studio, Lumiere HQ. You might be asking yourself, after 7 years of the highs of hiring staff, having a big studio space, why we are back to square one in a garage? Great question. Joshua and I are going to unpack some of those questions for you. And so, man behind the camera, what are we doing, bro?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
For 7 years, Tim and I have been trying to figure out who we are as a business, as individuals, as creatives. And that journey has been like this in terms of growth. And then on the other side of that curve, it's done this. So we started in the garage, now we're back in the garage. But that whole growth curve of hiring staff, running a production company, getting a big 360 square meter building, hiring, getting a whole lot of subtenants, all of that sort of stuff has taught us a lot. And it's been an intentional decrease of clutter, decrease of equipment, gear, overheads, so that we can focus on what really matters, I think.
I think we jumped into a space where we really wanted to go hammer down and scale a business to ultimately get off the tools. But through that journey, we've really learned that we love being on the tools. And so realistically, we just needed to simplify the business and focus on what we love, being creatives, getting back on the tools, and letting us be in the driver's seat rather than the busyness of running a business and paying for all these massive overheads, keeping us busy and it not serving us.
Never in my life have I not cared so much about lighting and composition. Because
Well, I was just gonna say, that's a great discussion.
Why don't you kick us off with one thing that you've learned over the last 7 years?
Well, to frame it a little bit tighter, the question could be, what would you tell your younger self?
That's hard to imagine for you though, because that was so long ago.
Well, yeah, I just clocked over 40.
Timbo just turned 40.
Woo!
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Turned over 40 and receding each a little bit more every day.
Bro, I'm pretty sure my hair's not receding, but I've got quite a high crown. So every time I tie my hair up, I'm like, is it receding more than it was last time?
Bro, you've got a solid head of hair.
Thank you.
Compared to 7 years ago, at least. So number one, I would say if you're in our industry and you're looking to start a production company or even just you're wanting to get into the industry, identify the style of work that you want to do. And that actually might come from doing everything at first just to get a taste of everything. And once you've really refined what you love to do, like go down that lane and pursue that with everything you have. Build your portfolio around that, do some spec shoots, and then your portfolio needs to be able to show the world exactly what you want to be doing so that you start attracting that type of work. And so for us, we were doing a whole lot of different types of work and we were showing everything. And so we were getting all this random stuff. But now we're niching down, we're just doing brand stories, branded content, the documentary style work. And that's the stuff that is coming our way now. So that would be my first thing.
Number two, the second thing that we've learned running a production company for 7 years is more work doesn't mean more money. It sounds so basic, but you get carried away with the activity and the hustle and bustle of work life, and it feels like you're doing a lot. If you're busy, you're moving, you're buying gear, you're talking to clients, there's lots of meetings, you're out at production, you're back home editing, you can get really carried away by that busyness. And it's not until you really hit the bottom financially, depending on the season you're in, where you sort of get a bit of a shock and wake up and go, if I take on one more job, it's actually costing me money at this point. And I think we've been there a couple of times in the past where if we were to take on another project in the same vein that had been in the past, it would just continue to eat away at our bottom line, ultimately because the way we were running business wasn't profitable. And in the early days, there is a tension. There's a lot of free work that you do, and every project that you do, you want to almost outdo yourself and give the client a super high value threshold for the money that you're receiving. But if you go too hard into that, then you just end up losing money. And this like portfolio that you're building is getting better and better and better, but you're never actually financially better off. And I think that I've probably been more on that side. Like my mentality is I can't release a product that I'm not completely satisfied with. If I know I haven't put my all into a product, I find it emotionally quite hard to be okay with that process. Whereas you probably sat on the other side of that and so many times, you know, probably pulled your hair out. That's probably why you don't have much hair.
That's why I don't have much hair, and the hair that I do have is going grey. So thanks, bro.
Yep, you're welcome.
But that's the commercial side of what we're doing. It's like being able to blend the artistic nature and the commercial realities. There is a real tension there. Finding that sweet spot for us has kind of been, I think that's why us as a business partnership works really well, because we're both wrestling each other in the different directions. Not to say that I don't have a push for the artistic drive, but the times that you've spent, you know, weeks in the edit suite just crafting the edit, and I'm like, bro, you had 3 days on this and you spent 3 weeks. Let's just get this out, get it done. And it's like, it's been awesome to be able to show a portfolio because people now expect great work. But at the same time, you've just got to weigh up, is this an investment for the company that we can show on the portfolio of our website to then be able to charge the higher dollars? Or is this purely fulfilling your creative itch and is not going to actually serve the company in the long run?
The second one.
Number 3, I would say know what gear you want. Like, it's easy when you're scaling a business to think that you need all the gear to be able to do all the jobs. But if you're focused on one type of work, know what is the absolute minimum that I need for this job, and then focus on building a really beautiful, light, succinct kit for that, knowing the kit inside out, and then slowly building from there. A lot of the gear we've accumulated over the years has been purely so that we can do all the types of different jobs.
I don't know if it was the second point, but knowing the type of work that you want to do is really important, because when opportunities come along, let's say you're set up for a documentary style production, and then someone says, hey, I want a beautiful studio product shot of this particular thing, and I want like a push-in, whether it's a dolly push-in on it. If you don't have a dolly and you don't have the right lights for the studio because you're shooting slow-mo, so you need a ton of lights, your 300Ds don't work anymore, then all of a sudden you're scrambling for all this new equipment to produce work that will be a one-off project.
Yeah.
And so not knowing the types of work that you want to do, you just say yes to everything and you continually acquire gear that you don't need. And so it's actually better to say no to things that you don't have the right equipment for. And that would be number 4, is what I've learned the hard way a lot, because there's been a lot of stuff we've brought that we have sold at a loss, is invest in stuff with longevity. So in the early days, investing in things like C-stands, lights, tripods, like a good quality tripod, perhaps lenses within your camera ecosystem. Investing in all of those things are going to last you, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 years. Whereas if you put all your money and all the value into a camera body, that thing's going to be out of date within 3 or 4, maybe 5 years. Even the Ursas, which I would say have done us incredibly well, they've had longevity and they're still pretty relevant now. They will be out of date eventually. New technology will come around, and so investing in stuff that has longevity is something I wish I had thought about sooner. This is Tim's Billingham bag that he has used probably what, 15 years?
15 years, and it looks like you could almost buy that new off the shelf as it is.
Yeah, and you probably want to buy it like this because it's got that nice faded look. But good quality bag. This is, I think, $1,200 New Zealand now if you were to buy it new. But what a great investment if it's lasted 15 years and it's basically been taken to every single production.
Yeah.
Something like this. This is a Pelican case. Buy a Pelican case that is probably slightly bigger than what you think you'll need if you're just getting started. But Pelican cases will literally last you a lifetime if you don't throw them out of planes or cars, like my Mini.
That's a story for another day.
The way I think about financially investing in gear is if a camera costs $5,000 and you use it for 2 years and then you can sell it for $3,000, the camera technically only cost you $2,000 and $1,000 per year to use it. And so you've got to understand how much money you're making, what's the overheads of your company, and what is, I guess, the rental fee that you're willing to pay for certain gear over its lifetime. For something like a tripod, $4,000 or $5,000 might feel like a huge amount of money for a tripod, but if it holds its value and after 10 years time, it's still worth $4,000. Technically after 10 years, if you sell it for $4,000, it's only cost you $100 per year to rent that tripod off yourself. So there's certain ways to think about gear, but definitely invest in things with longevity that aren't going to be recycled quickly, and try and rent as much as possible per project if you have access to a good rental house.
The next one is data management is expensive. We had a server system in our studio where we had something like 190 terabytes worth of data, and it was the bane of my existence. Joshua was always coming to me saying, hey bro, we need more drives, and just constantly spending money on drives was expensive, but also considering what we needed for a backup system. We had an offsite backup here at my place. And so thinking about data has to be part of your business processes. How are you making money from either hosting data so that it's not an expense to you where you're constantly paying to host the data for the client, or how are you actually managing that data in the cold storage process?
It's pretty hard to delete anything. And so having a conversation about data from the start and including that in the conversation of purchasing cameras is very important. So if you're going to shoot a 4-cam, 2-hour interview every single time you do a brand film, and you're doing 3 brand films a week, and you're shooting on something like the Ursa with Blackmagic RAW, or even on something that's even a heavier RAW codec, then you're just going to be dealing with terabytes and terabytes of data every single project. And you've got to put that somewhere. You've got to back it up, and the best backups are not just 1 backup, but 3 backups. Not only that, it costs you every year just to hold that data as well. And so having a recycle policy or a policy within your contracts with your clients as to how long you're going to store their data and how they're going to access it, and is there an access fee from us every time they want it. All of that stuff has been a good learning over the last 7 years.
That kind of feeds into the conversation of why we're also wanting to head to Canon as well, is the Canon file system is so much smaller than the Blackmagic RAW.
If you don't shoot RAW.
If you don't shoot RAW, correct. So the goal or the idea is that we'd be shooting C-Log 2, which is still a beautiful codec, and to the general consumer of the, I'm getting into a space now where I'm like not even educated. This guy's the colorist, so he can talk to it. But in terms of
So for those listening, C-Log 2 is not a codec. C-Log 2 is a color space. The color space C-Log 2 can also be compressed in ProRes or H.264 or H.265.
You can see who's the technician in the relationship here.
Yep.
So yeah, we're looking at...
I love how you confidently just pushed into that.
Yeah, and all the other creatives who aren't technicians would be on the other side of the camera being like, yeah.
So number 6, one of the other things we've learned running a business for 7 years in the video production space is that it's important for your personal values and your business values to align and coexist.
It's good.
Initially, we had bright plans for the business. We had a vision, and we thought we knew how we were going to get there. And I think we are tracking in that trajectory, but along the way, there are certain tensions that arise because we're both fathers, husbands, we've got 3 kids each, and there's that tension of family, the responsibilities outside of work, and then the responsibilities of work, and also the responsibility to each other to make work happen and obviously support both of our families in the process. And so all of that has been a process of trying to pull our worlds together a lot more, because ultimately if we have separate personal values, such as the amount of time I need to spend at home with family, or certain things that you want to be committed to outside of work, if they don't align with the intensity of the season for work and there's no communication, then it just causes tension and issues. And so that's been a journey. It's been a journey of learning how to communicate well. But not only that, I think it's genuinely, for me, I'll speak for myself, it's been a journey of understanding myself and understanding my family and their needs and their desires for me as a person to be with them during the week, but then also our desires as a family to see financial progress or whatever it might be. And how do we pull all of those values in and bring them into the conversation with Tim and Shelley and go, this is what we want, this is what you want, this is what we want. How is all of that going to work together?
7 years is a long time, and I've learned so much about myself throughout those 7 years. And I think any sort of human who is self-reflective should be constantly growing and learning more about yourself. And the more you can understand about yourself, the more that you can come to the table with the security and confidence of how you work, what you want, and how you can better that relationship. And we're just constantly refining ourselves through this process. We never arrive, but we are enjoying the process more and more each and every single day.
All right, lucky last, number 7. One other thing we've learnt along the journey, and to be honest, quite recently, is just learning that the whole journey of business is a journey and it's not a destination. You'll get to a point where you have achieved goals that you once set out and thought were impossible. And then when you get there, it's bittersweet because all you do is raise your vantage to further distant goals. And so if you can't celebrate all the little things along the way and really enjoy the journey and enjoy the process, then you're going to be miserable. There are highs and lows and lefts and rights, and if you can just enjoy the process and enjoy living, then you're winning.
Yeah. And if you're a creative out there and a business operator and you are wrestling with the tension of scaling a business and you're wanting to grow something, there's enough noise out there to tell you that you're not growing fast enough and you're not working hard enough, you're not putting in as many hours as you should be. And there is a lot of noise as well in terms of how your business should look. And if you're that type of personality that thrives on that sort of thing, then go for it. No judgment here. There's definitely a economic impact that we all benefit from when businesses do scale and succeed. But for us, the idea of just being able to slow things down and enjoy life, enjoy the things that matter to us, such as the family, enjoy the working relationship, and just the headspace of being able to just take a moment, take the foot off the gas and know that everything's going to be okay for a little bit. But at the same time, have sprint seasons when we need to sprint. Like, that's good. But for us, it's about finding that rhythm, finding that pace of life that isn't just hammer down sprinting the whole time and getting to the end of the race and just being like, what was that all for?
We'll talk a lot more about that very shortly, but why don't you just give us a bit of a rundown of the space, Tim?
Well, this is still an accumulation of what we had in our massive warehouse, but we did sell off a whole lot of gear. So if we're working over here, this is kind of just a death trap. This here is just a storage cabinet where we've got a bunch of camera gear and just random bits and bobs. Take gets messy, but it looks tidy when you close the door. Just a bunch of tools, camera tools and things. It's obviously just a bit of a mess. Little bits and bobs, all that is. Gardening gloves. Everybody needs a pair of gardening gloves. This is just our gear rack. So anytime we go out on productions, this is where all the gear lives. And so Joshua and myself will come up here to prep all the gear. We can get the gear out on the floor. We set the cameras up on the table to rig the cameras out, things like that. But this is where all the camera gear lives, the lighting. I will say, through the journey, we've talked about wanting to simplify and get our gear down as small as possible, and we're thinking about jumping ship to Canon. One thing we are actually really happy with is our lighting kit. We do have 2 Aperture 600Ds, 3 300Ds, and they are just a really good solid set. We would love to add some RGB lights in there at some stage, but lighting is pretty rock solid at the moment, so we're pretty happy with that. We've got a bunch of modifiers to help us shape light, and that's something that we'll continue to probably add just to give us different lighting options. But yeah, it's usually video on the left-hand side with some audio, and then photography gear on the right-hand side, just to keep it kind of nice and easy. You can kind of see how much video gear we have. And then this is where I spend my post-production days, sitting down here, doing some work. Running the Apple MacBook Pro M4. It's M4 Pro chip, and it's an absolute monster. Really, really happy with it. It's good for all the photo work that I do, most of the Adobe Lightroom, Photoshop, and Capture One. Tethering to Capture One with the R5 files, super fast, no dramas at all, really stoked. And then over this way, this is our charging station, where we charge all our gear. So anything that's flat stays on the left-hand side. Anything that's charged goes into the charged bay, so I know if it's fully charged or not. Just nice and simple, and just some tools and stuff on the bottom. These are our C-stands, and it's about it. We do have a couple of combo stands, which I've just rigged up nice and tidy because they store pretty clunky. So I'm just trying to get them out of the way and come up with a pretty good solution there. Just using these little bungees to hold them up. But that's the space.
Now that you're a YouTuber, are you conscious of how clean you want to make this all look?
It's been a big debate in my mind about how much I actually set this space up for YouTube, or just embrace the space. And there's a certain element of authenticity that I love, where, you know, it is what it is.